Hey guys, I'm David Mitchell, founder and CEO of TRADEway. What if God himself gave you a blueprint for how to handle your money? Well, the Bible is a practical book. Let's dive in and see what it has to say about wealth, about risk, about leverage, and about investing, and uncover how trading in the stock market can be a powerful tool for moving towards your biggest goals. We're so happy you're here. This is The Word on Investing. Hey guys, glad to have you back with us today on our podcast. I am really excited about this episode. I've got a wonderful guest to be with us today named Ben Russell, and I can't wait for you to hear more about him. Some of you guys may know him already, but he is the vice president of AMPT at TRADEway, and that's our long-term buy and hold retirement fund. And Ben runs that for TRADEway, and but that's not where Ben started with us. Ben and I go way back, and I guess my least fond memory of Ben is the time that he beat me at caveman golf. But some of you guys may even remember Ben on our radio show, The Word on Investing, and because he was my co-host on that radio show. But Ben, you know, I'm going to let you answer some of the things I was about to say, actually. So I'm going to ask you the question. I'm just going to throw it out there. How did you get started with TRADEway? And what were you doing before you got involved with AMPT?
Well, those are great questions. And thank you, Pastor David. I will tell you, it's a little different being on this side of the microphone, if you will. I'm used to asking you the questions, so this is going to be entirely different, entirely new. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I was trying to get you to talk with my accent, and you just be me and I'll be you.
Well, you know, I learned how to speak in Kentucky and in Texas. So, you know, that accent does come out, but, you know, I'll do my best. But, you know, one and only David Mitchell, big shoes to fill there, my friend.
Well, I might actually have a little trouble with the Seattle type accent too. And it comes from other places. So you just be you, I'll be me. But the thing is, it's a little backwards because you asked the questions on the radio show and I did the answers, and we're going to turn that around today because I want the folks to learn about you and about AMPT and everything, all the cool things that you've brought forth in that program.
Well, it's been an amazing journey. And, you know, I remember when it was about 14 years ago now, I was working at a big tech company in Seattle. Everybody would know the name. And I would hear this guy on the radio, Pastor David Mitchell. And it was kind of funny because he would say, "Hello, my name is Pastor David Mitchell. I just teach the wealthy secrets to the rest of us. So if you'd like to know more about how it works, all you have to do is come to my 2-day seminar." And I'm like, And I heard that for months before I took the step to come to my first TRADEway event.
So Ben, did you ever hear the one about who's causing you to look at those brake lights?
Actually, that was the one. And that's the one, Pastor, I mean, you hit it on the head. I mean, that is the nail on the head, because what would be happening is I would be listening to you while I'm driving home from my tech job, and I would be hearing you talk about these amazing biblical concepts. And then what I would hear is you say, "So are you tired of looking at the brake lights?" with your accent. I tried. I can't quite do it the way you do. And sure enough, the brake lights would come on. And I'm like, "Stop saying that."
That's funny. All right. Now listen, you go ahead and name a couple of these big tech companies you worked for while you were thinking about those brake lights.
Well, so I've had the privilege of working at the largest oil natural gas pipeline on the planet. I've had the privilege of working at the largest software company on the planet, this small little company that you might have heard of called Microsoft, based in Redmond, Washington. That's what moved us to Washington. I've worked for the largest multimedia company on the planet. That would be the Walt Disney Corporation. And it's been interesting just to see the journey that God's brought me through, to recognize that working at those big companies is not what made me happy.
Yeah. Now I know you heard the brake light, ad for TRADEway, and you eventually made your way to a step one, start your journey, and kind of tell us the road for starting right about there and what led you from there to a point where you thought, well, you know what, I can make a break from corporate America.
Well, it was an interesting journey, to say the least. Part of it is that when you work in corporate America, you get really used to the big paychecks. You get really used to the big benefits like healthcare and retirement and all those things. But then you begin to recognize that it's never really going to make the big difference for you and your family. And what I started to see is that the stock market provided me a different way for me to go start doing something for me and for my family and for the legacy that was coming after me. That was a whole lot more than making millions and millions and millions of dollars for the tech companies, right? They gave me a very small piece of the pie. I'm like, what can I do to start doing it differently and focus for me and my family? And that's really what led me on that journey. And, Pastor, I have to say that the step one material that we had at the time really helped to expose me to some of the entrepreneurial concepts that were within scripture that I just had never seen before.
Yeah.
And I started to recognize that if I want to do this for me and my family, I have to start thinking differently than just having a job.
Yeah. Now, to put it in perspective, you had some really nice salaries. But the thing is, you were trading your infinitely valuable time for a little bit of someone else's money, even though it was a lot of their money. But, from the point of view of the money they're making, it wasn't a big percentage, but it was a great salary. So what is it that got you the place where you said, I'm going to make a change? And what were you seeking?
A big part of that is that I asked myself one day, because I ran a pretty big team at Microsoft, and we were a part of one of the most aggressive divisions that you guys now know as Bing. So in the very early days of Microsoft, I was a part of helping to develop the platform that became the search engine that we know as Bing. And it was huge pressure. I mean, massive pressure. And the team and we would just make stuff happen. But the amount of time that I had to spend with that, not being there for my family, the really aggressive go get it done that made me successful in tech didn't necessarily make me a great family man. And I started to recognize that I was doing what the Bible talked about. I was trading my soul, if you will. I was trading my time, my talent, my energy on something that would not have any long-term benefit. And I began to recognize, why am I doing this? Hold up. When my system goes down, this company loses $1 million a second. I mean, that's big deal. I mean, that's huge. $1 million a second is massive money. But what is it doing for eternity and for eternal value? And I started to go, you know what? Nothing. All I'm doing is I'm selling spam, because that's basically what it was. I was enabling the back-end system that tracked everybody to sell you spam. And I didn't see any long-term redeeming value from continuing to do that. I wanted something different.
Well, and one of the things I know you learned in step one was that God's system to give people, especially his people, the potential to create wealth and even generational wealth in their family is called financial leverage, which means you have to leverage many other people, the man hours, the brains, the money of other people for the benefit of your family. And, we at TRADEway, we feel like creating a stock trading business is one of the greatest ways because it's a low entry. You can open a trading account for nothing. You could have a garage sale and raise $1,500 and get started. So there are very few, I don't know any business you can start like that without having more money up front. So it's a great entry ability for stock trading. But the thing is, you got to get the skill sets. And so that leads me to another question I want to ask you is like when you came to step one and you went on through, and of course, make a long story short, you became a great trader and you and I became friends, and you did beat me at caveman golf, which by the way is croquet. And, but that's a fun story. But we became friends, and I realized you had the gift of teaching too. And so eventually I said, Ben, man, would you pray about being one of our speakers around the country to teach what we teach and share this with God's people? And of course you said yes, but what, as you went through the step one, and let's go back to that point where you're starting to learn these concepts and you realized, because you were already a student of the Bible, and you realized what God taught about entrepreneurism and all that. And what were some of the surprises along the way? Like when you started looking at the investment world and what it's really like and learning what it's like, what surprised you about some of that stuff?
Well, what surprised me about it is that I was just not being taught about it. I was college educated. I had a pretty good foundation for me when it came out of the business world, and I knew nothing about how finance really worked. I mean, I've been told this buy and hold stuff, right? Just go put money in your 401k, it'll grow, and just leave it alone and don't pay any attention to it. And what TRADEway helped me to understand was that there really is a different way. What you do is when you don't know better, you take advantage of the services of other people. How is it that those other people, the money managers, are making their money? And if you recognize that they drive really nice cars, because by that point, I was actually now in the Bellevue offices of Microsoft. And in Bellevue, they've got a significant tech center and they've got a significant financial center. So you begin to look around, you see Ferraris in the driveways, the parking garages are filled with very high-end cars, and you're like, how are these people making their money? It was from the stock market. So I started to recognize, there's a different trend here. And if the world is making money to buy toys, what would happen if I decided to start trying to make money to do something more with my money than just buy toys with it? And that was the perspective that I was lacking.
Well, when you first came in, one of the things I know you learned was the difference between the long-term buy and hold mindset and generally what we taught step 1, step 2, step 3, even step 4 at TRADEway was shorter term trades, not day trading, but shorter term trades, and letting the stock itself kind of show you its little cycles and how to get in and out, and fundamental analysis, technical analysis, and how the news fits in. And you need those 3 things. And you learn those things very quickly. And you began to create a track record of your own trading. And so the first thing was you started trading, doing some trades, learning some 20 different strategies, picking out the 4 or 5 or 6 that you loved. And then you come forward in time, you become one of our great speakers. And then before I know it, now you're creating strategies with me. And I mean, we've got twice as many as we had when you joined the company. And a lot of those are combinations of things that we were teaching maybe, but different new concepts and all that. So it's just been a really neat journey. And so you went through the trading part, right? And you learned that trading is a way that gives you the potential to create wealth. But then you get to the point, well, okay, but once you have the wealth, there is a place for the long-term investing. And what's interesting is you actually end up running that part of our company. Now I'm going to give a Bible verse here, Ecclesiastes 11, verses 1 and 2. It says, "Cast thy bread upon the waters." And Ben, you've heard me say it. The hippies in the 60s got it right. Bread means money, right? It's an allegory. It pictures money. The Lord says, "Cast your bread upon the waters, for thou shalt find it after many days. Give a portion to 7 and also to 8, for thou knowest not what evil shall come upon the earth." And that actually, we don't have time to go into a lot of that, but right now, but we probably have in previous episodes. But that's talking about proper diversification of your longer term money. And, AMPT was built around passages like that. But, talk to me a little bit about some of the things you've discovered that kind of goes wrong with a lot of the financial advisors and how they treat money, and how AMPT is different than that.
Well, it's a great conversation. And David, the question kind of leads into some of the things I've already talked about with the Microsoft days. Is I didn't understand that money and money management has different philosophies. I would just put my money in my Fidelity 401k and I would just let it go. And I had no understanding of how it actually functioned. And what I discovered through TRADEway was that, I really was missing out on an awful lot of opportunities simply by recognizing that there are cycles that happen within the market. And I remember back during the tech bubble, how much my own personal net worth got hit in the tech crash. And that did not feel good. I remember when I was at the oil and natural gas pipeline, it was a company called El Paso Energy. And I'm telling the story because it falls into what your question is. I was in a stock, El Paso Energy, EPE. It was trading at $72 a share. And I had a lot of my retirement savings in it. Remember this little company called Enron? Well, the company I was working for at the time was an Enron clone, and I was in Houston, Texas. And that stock at $72 a share eventually bottomed out at $333.
Whoa. Wow.
And the buy and hold mentality, I can tell you, does not work from $72 down to $333 if you want to have this thing called wealth long term. There is no potential in that equation.
Let me stop you a second. One of the many, many, many things that we see when people come and talk with us at the breaks, at our meetings and different times, so many people will own an inordinate amount of their total money in the world is in the stock of the company they work for. That's really dangerous. You just pointed that out, right? And I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's just something you guys that are listening, you might want to think about that. You need to be more diversified. And that's what the Lord meant when he said, put it into 7 or 8 groups, not just one thing, right? Anyway, go ahead, Ben.
No, and it's a great point because I did not recognize, because I didn't have the teaching, I didn't have anybody to really help me with these things. I was just figuring out as I went. I didn't have a TRADEway. I didn't have access to the financial advisors to be able to get the knowledge and the wisdoms from others that have learned the lessons the hard way. So I learned some lessons the hard way, but it showed me that, hey, look, if the stocks went down that far, that fast, and there are patterns in stocks, why would I not just learn how to take advantage of it? So that longer term mindset can blend with a shorter term mindset just because of the teachings that TRADEway gave me. And now I look at investing. I don't know, Pastor, we use the same terms as the industry, long-term and short-term, but I don't think we use the language quite the same way as the rest of the world.
Yeah, well, they basically, if you get an MBA at any major university, you're going to only learn about long-term buy and hold, and they're going to teach that's the only way to make money in the market. And yet the big boys on Wall Street trade, and they cover that up. They don't want you to know that. That's part of what you learned when you came to step one. Even in our very first class, we teach those things. But you know, the thing that's great about AMPT, now I guess we could put it this way. Here's what's bad about not being an AMPT, because so many financial advisors will leave your money in the market all the way to the bottom of a major correction or even a bear market crash. And they'll just say things like, well, stay the course, you know, stay in, leave your money with us. It'll always come back. What's the problem with that?
Well, it shows that there's a mathematical lack of understanding. Okay, so they are correct. It will eventually come back. But if that's 10, 15 years from now, many of us may not have 10 or 15 years for it to, quote unquote, come back. So what I learned from TRADEway and what I continue to try to show others is just the power of not being in the market all the time. Our technology, our capabilities within the modern systems that we are all now capable of participating in means you don't have to. And what I love about what we've built at AMP, Pastor, is if I would have had the tool sets with an AMP program when I was working at the company where the stock went down like it did, I would have had the capability of pressing the button and not being in it anymore. I just didn't know what I didn't know. And now, I think God does this, right? This is the way God works. He uses things that we look back on our life as quote unquote evil, things that are really bad. He will almost always be able to turn it for good. And the thing that you have to recognize is that when he takes something that's been hard in your life, he often makes it a lesson that you get to teach other people. Can I tell you, I've learned an awful lot of hard financial lessons that I'm really privileged now to be able to teach to other people. And this is just one of them. Don't be in a stock all the way down to the bottom. It doesn't work. Yeah, or even in the whole market. And another cool thing on the positive side is there are ways you can make money when the market's going down. And if you had known that, you could have bought puts, for example, in that particular stock. But even with the long-term money, there are ways to buy inverse positions that actually make money when the S&P is crashing. And a lot of people don't know that. And Wall Street doesn't really want you to have the ability to do those things. They want to control your money. One of the cool things about AMPT is that we give you an education on the long-term investing principles and strategies so that we don't want to just do it and say, here, give us your money, we're going to do this. We want you to have a say in it and to know what's going on and to have a huge part in it. It's your money. And we don't actually even take control of your money like the other companies do. You're in control of your money, but we're there to be with you. And Ben, you've played such a huge role in developing AMPT. I mean, I spent 2.5 years building it, putting the bones there, but you helped put a lot of meat on it when you came because we were still in the very early stages when you joined us. And you've been there basically from the beginning. What do you think some of the greatest strengths are to this way of dealing with the long-term money? And part of it's just the empowerment, David. And it's a great way to start to articulate the core difference. We really we're not managing your money. The way that the AMP program works is that we work with you as partners and we give you access to technology that with a few clicks of the mouse, you can literally take your entire portfolio and allocate it across dozens of positions with just a few clicks of the mouse. So we're taking the technology, the TRADEway know-how and understanding, the capability of seeing trends in the market, And with our help, I literally can make it to where all of our clients can just press the button and be in and out of the market in ways that make sense based on patterns that are pretty discernible. I mean, we don't get it right all the time, not even close. But I love the quote from Phil Fisher. This is from Stock Market Wizards. He says, I'm really not a very good trader. I get in a little late and I get out a little early. I'm like, what if that was the way in which you had the capability of managing your money? Maybe you get in a little late and you get out a little early. Would that change how you manage your money? And what would those returns look like? Just look at the cycles of the market. You can begin to understand there's huge opportunities if you have the know-how and the technology to do it. And that's what we did in AMPT.
Yeah.
We created the know-how and we created the technology, and we make it to where anybody who wants to can do it right along with us.
Well, just a simple example. One of the simple things you can do is we've noticed this, Ben. Our family noticed it for generations, but especially in the last decade or more, it seems that other than the first year of a new bull market, any other year of that bull, we have what we call corrections about every 3 months. So our staff looks for those. We watch for them. And really, if you go back and you look, we have this little thing called AMPT alerts where we send these out one or more times a day, and we let you know what's going on in the world of finance, economics, the economic news, world news, and how that affects your investments. And, one of the things we will let you know is when it's been about 3 months and we maybe need to be watching for a correction. And really, if you look back at our archives, with maybe only a couple of exceptions, every major correction and bear market, we have let our clients know at least a day ahead before it happened. Sometimes 10 days, 7 or 8 days. I mean, many days before it happened that we have, it looks like a correction is on the way. Why? That is so important because, like a lot of our guys say, cash is a good position, and your financial advisor's not going to tell you that. He's fearful of going to cash. He's afraid you'll ask for your cash back, right? But going to cash and then letting the market tank, then you can get back in and reinvest at those lower prices. If that's all you did, that would be a great secret. And yet it also keeps our money safe in these big downturns. And our goal is to protect people's hard-earned money. Right?
Oh, absolutely. And Pastor, the way that you said it is how I like to talk about goals, because normally when you talk about money and money management, there's competing priorities and competing goals. Our number one goal at AMPT is preservation, because you don't know when these massive hits are going to be coming. Well, but actually you kind of do, right? I mean, you can sort of see that the market is getting a little toppy, or it starts to make some of our signature patterns. And I often tell people, if you see the train coming down the track, are you going to stay on the track?
Yeah.
No. All right. So I loved when I was teaching in Seattle, that actually was in Tacoma, because right outside the hotel in Tacoma, they had this train car trolley that would come across. And I'm like, all right, so here's the deal. You've got a suitcase full of cash and it's sitting on the track. Can you go pick up your suitcase full of cash pretty easy and get it off the track? Yeah, you can. Each one of us, we can go grab our suitcase and we can get it off the track. Now, what if instead we've given it to a porter, and the porter put all of our suitcases in a really big, one of those crates that they use to carry like 15, 20, 30 suitcases? Can the porter go quickly pick up all 30 suitcases and get it off the track? Oh, no way. So why not get into a situation where you can be the person who gets your suitcase of cash off the train track? And man, it resonates as an image. So what I'm doing is I'm giving you the technology so with a click of the mouse, you can go get your suitcase off the track.
Yeah, you can do it with your Mac, with your laptop, but you can do it with your smartphone. And a couple of clicks of the button, you can be in cash, which is a safe place to be when a correction is here or on the way is even better. And then when the thing hits bottom, everything's cheaper. And whatever instruments we're in, and of course, we help you with the portfolio. That's a big part of what we do. And but whatever you're in, you can buy back in at a cheaper price. Now, if all you ever did was, with 3 of those a year over a 5-year period, you got 15 opportunities to get out of that thing before it tanks and then get back in at lower prices. And you're not, like you said, you won't get them all right because we're using probability math. But if we have a long enough period of time, then I think even the promises in the Bible say that the Lord will give you the potential to do really well over time. And that's what it's about, is the probability math. So you don't have to get it right every time. You just get it right a few times. And even if you did nothing else, even if you didn't pick the best investments, if you got back in at those lower prices enough times over that 5-year period, that in itself has potential to create great returns. So big part of our secret sauce is just not being in the market at the wrong time, going ahead and being in cash and showing you how to make that happen. But Ben, I mean, you've put a lot of work into this thing, because at first it was more difficult for the clients to do that. And now it's a lot simpler, and you've trained staff, and we've got everybody that can help you set up your trading account and everything. So, what have you found to be, when you first started learning all these things about the investment world, name a couple of 3 things that really surprised you that weren't the way you thought they were?
Well, it's interesting just to recognize that I didn't know that I didn't know. And I think that that's sort of, especially as a human, somebody who is a fairly high level person in some of these big companies, you think you know a lot. And I began to recognize I didn't know what I thought I knew. And that was really surprising to me, because I had done pretty well financially, and I thought that I knew a lot. I didn't. I did not know even the half of what it was that was available to me in the stock market. So the other thing that I thought was pretty amazing, how easy it was, because the technology makes it easy. So I could leverage these tools, and instead of me having to do an awful lot of math, it just turned math into pictures. I mean, that was like surprise number 2. Surprise number 3 was what the Lord revealed about my heart as a trader. So God used trading to show me, wait a minute, I'm a lot more fearful than what I thought. Because I thought all of my source and my supply came from my portfolio. Oh, no. It's God that provides all those things, right? It's not the number of dollars in my bank account. That was a huge learning. And then the second one was how much fear I had over my portfolio. And when I started to recognize that God was using trading to help me to recognize just how much I really didn't trust him, and how much I thought that I had the world under control, and how much I really didn't have it under control. So God used trading to really help to conform me a lot more into the type of person and the image of Christ that I'm supposed to be as a follower of Christ. He used trading probably, I told somebody the other day, I probably learned more about what it meant to be a child of God by becoming a father than anything else on the planet. I learned a lot more about what God is by being a husband, probably second most. And then the third most, trading taught me a lot about what it means for me and where I trust and where I put my time, my talent, my energy, and my efforts. Because ultimately, I was spending a lot more time working than anything else. And trading helped me to recognize I was probably putting my talents in the wrong spot.
Yeah. Well, think about this. See if you agree with this, Ben, because I want you to think back when you basically were living off a paycheck, a good one, but living off of a paycheck. When you switched to where you were an entrepreneur, and the things that you did, and in this case, it was in a stock trading business, the things that you did either gave you a paycheck or didn't. And then you went a step beyond that and you realize, well, you know what? I'm not even really the one in control of that. I need the skill sets. And that's one of the great things TRADEway helps with. And by the way, let me say this. If you go out to TRADEway.com and you check out Trader Max or Trader Pro, those are 2 great programs you can get involved in to learn these skill sets that Ben's talking about. You can learn these skill sets, but it went beyond that you weren't even in control. God was. So wouldn't you agree? Like, you look in the Bible days, most people were entrepreneurs. Probably 90% or more of the people were entrepreneurs. They didn't work for a paycheck. They actually owned their business. A lot of times it was an agricultural business. But don't you think that in itself makes a person have to be and walk closer with the Lord?
Oh, absolutely. And it's a great way to articulate some of the transitions.
Yeah, that's what you were noticing.
And I will tell you that I got to see that transition in my mindset firsthand as I started to live it. And it really was the question of, who is my source? Who is my supply? Is the big company that's writing me the big check my source or supply? Or is it the gifts and the talents and the ability that the Lord has given me? And I had to start asking myself some pretty difficult questions. And here's the part, David, where most people don't know. As much as what those big paychecks and all the things that you get to do are very attractive, you basically become a slave. It's a different form of slavery. Mm-hmm. Somebody else is telling you how to spend your time. Somebody else is telling you when you can go on vacation. Somebody else is telling you how to run your life. And the deeper I got into it, the more I began to recognize that the culture and the things that are around me are not godly. And the more that I attempted to live in a godly way, the more I recognized that I was a fish out of water in these cultures. I didn't like it. It wasn't comfortable. And so here I am a slave because of a paycheck. Here I am a slave because of the culture. What can I do differently? Oh, wait a minute. God's already started to build into me these skill sets, these opportunities through this company called TRADEway that's got a godly mindset and a godly mission that's actually helping me to understand these things. Why would I not take my time, talent, and energy and try to invest it into, my own trading business? And that's what I decided to go do.
Yeah. Well, what I hear you saying very clearly, because your experience, your life experience is what makes this so vivid, is that number one, the very thing that people think creates security actually makes them, in a sense, a slave, because who gets to tell you how long you can stay with your family on a vacation? Your boss does. You got to be back in 2 weeks or whatever. They determine that. All these kinds of things that they determine, and they don't give you that much money for that. And they certainly don't give you leverage. So the second thing is, by freeing yourself from that and being willing to take some risk, learn skill sets, but take risk, you now have the ability to leverage the man hours of all the people on Wall Street. I don't know how many people, and they don't all know the Lord, but they sure know money. So you can leverage their mind, their ideas, their money, their time to benefit your family. So now you've turned it around. Instead of being the one that is leveraged, you're the one that's leveraging other people. And now you have more time freedom with your family. And that also means more time to spend with the Lord too, doesn't it?
Oh, you're so right. And Pastor David, you said a few things there I want to underscore. When you basically get to choose how you spend your time, you now have another choice that becomes pretty apparent to you. And when you actually don't have as much pressures on your time, you get to choose if you're going to spend that time with the Lord. And it's a big part of my trading journey. Is early on, I can still remember the day I was in Seattle, Washington, and I had overslept because I had to work late the night before, and my phone is going berserk because of the alerts on my stock trades, right? And I had been in the habit of waking up and spending some time with the Lord. This is just what I wanted to do. I wanted to start my day off with the Lord. But because I overslept and my phone is going berserk, I wake up and I'm now in a panic. I didn't get a lot of sleep the night before. I hadn't had any coffee yet, so I really wasn't thinking very clearly, right? And my stock trades are going the wrong way. And, I was a fairly new trader, and I was really, to use a modern term, I was freaking out because of the amount of money that I was seeing going out of my portfolio. And that still small voice in the back of my head says, hey, we didn't spend any time together this morning. What's more important to you, Ben? The stock market or me? That was a tough question for me. So I had to acknowledge, you know what? I'm just going to let this thing go right now. Lord, I'm going to go get centered and focused on you first. And I did. And trust me, it was probably some of the most fervent prayer time I had ever had, because I was in some really losing positions at that point, right? And what was fun was that after about 30 minutes of prayer time and reading the word, I came back and my trades were now positive.
Yeah.
So I learned a really valuable lesson, right? And, we actually teach some of these things within the TRADEway system. But for me, God used it as a very practical way. Where's your focus? Where is your heart first and foremost? And then all the rest of the issues of life will follow. And they just use that in a very practical way to show it to me.
So the skill sets gave you some control of your time, but then you had to examine your priorities, didn't you?
And that was exactly right.
Well, you know what? Everybody's going to have to go through that when they learn to be an entrepreneur, because time freedom is a great thing, but you know what? We got to examine our priorities and spend time with the Lord too, don't we? Well, that's one of the beautiful things about it, though. When you gain time freedom, that's not only more time for your family and for yourself, but it's more time for you to get to know the Lord better, spend time with Him. When you want to go down that walk to learn to be an entrepreneur, there's no better place to go than TRADEway. And you can go out there, and there are a lot of different ways to get started, but I love the membership called the Trader Max. So go out to TRADEway.com and check out Trader Max, because it's a great way to get started, get the ground floor effect of what's the stock market all about, what is the foundation of everything I need to know for my stock trading career going forward. And then it moves on into more advanced things like options trading and how that can give you the leverage where every dollar is worth $7, maybe $14. And you know, guys, that's something only your congressman is supposed to know how to do. You're not supposed to know that, but we're going to show you how that's done. And it's really amazing. It's something God put on the shelf for his people, and his people don't know about it much, but we want to share it with you. It's powerful. And listen, there's no risk because you can cancel the membership at any time. So just go out to TRADEway.com and check out Trader Max. It can be life-changing. So guys, we've talked about a lot of topics today. We talked about AMPT, which is more long-term, like retirement money concept of long-term buy and hold trading. And then I just talked about Trader Max, which shows you how to do shorter-term trades. It's great to have both skill sets. And with AMPT, we're going to really focus on the right way to do long-term buy and hold, the right strategies, the right skill sets, the right rules. And with Trader Max, it's going to show you how to do the shorter term trades. And remember this, long-term investing is not to create wealth. That's for people that already have wealth. If you want to have the potential to create wealth, you have to learn how to trade something, whether it's trading cars where you buy them cheap, fix them up, sell them for more, houses, or stocks or stock options. We're going to teach you how to trade stock options in the right way, in a safe way, and how to manage the risk and all of that. And it's just can be life-changing. Now, for 80% of your money, you don't take quite that much risk. You put it in something safer like AMPT, and it's a long-term buy and hold for retirement growth, but for safety. So short-term trading gives you the potential to create wealth. Long-term investing is the way you protect your wealth. And so both of those things are powerful. Go out to TRADEway.com, check them out. Well, Ben, we're out of time now, but it's always enjoyable to spend time with you. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Well, it was fun. It's not often that I get to be on this side of the mic, but you know, Pastor, if I could just close, I could say that everybody's got a story. That's the way that God makes this work. And what's powerful is to recognize the story that God is building in you is a story that God will use in other people's life if you let him. All right, so what does TRADEway provide? The chance to build your story so that you can have an impact and an influence into others, and that you can be used as a part of his kingdom. And if that's what you're excited about, no better place than TRADEway to come be a part of a group of people that have that same mission. So thank you, Pastor David. Thank you to you and your family for the chance to continue to be involved with, exposing these amazing things to so many people. We often perish. The scripture says that my people perish for a lack of knowledge. And what I love about TRADEway, we're here to expose what's possible and to give you the knowledge so that you can think about things in a much different way than what the world system would teach you. I'm living proof of it. And all I have to do is say, thank you, God, for bringing me to TRADEway.
Hey, Ben, thank you so much for being with us today. You said some great things, and I think you really got people thinking. You started out not knowing that much about trading, and you became a great trader. You became one of our great speakers, and now you're the vice president over AMPT. And I think it's great for folks to know that you can start at ground zero and you have the potential to learn and accomplish great things in your life. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us. Well, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure and rate and review our podcast. And as a special thank you, what we're going to do, if you do that, we're going to give you free access to our incredible Word on Investing virtual summit coming up on April 22nd through 24th, 2021. You're going to hear from many of our season 2 guests like Dr. Myron Golden and many others. So these amazing folks will be on there for 3 full days. I'll be there too, so don't miss it. Just rate and review the podcast today and then register for the summit by going to TRADEway.com. That's TRADEway.com. Well, thanks again for being with us today, Ben. It was fantastic. And guys, we'll see you next time.